Welcome back to UGC NET English class. In the previous class, we discussed the first part of the history of English language and literature. Today we will discuss the Old English or the Anglo-Saxon period. But before we go to the discussion of the Old English or the Anglo-Saxon period, once more remember who all dominated the British Isles at a different time periods. Starting from the Stone Age and Bronze Age, hunters from Northern Europe, Iron Age, Celtic or Celtic people, late pre-Roman Iron Age, people from Gaul, that is from France and Belgium, then Roman Britain, that is the Romans, then Anglo-Saxon or the Old English period. So first came Anglo-Saxons and Jutes, and then Danes and Vikings came from Scandinavia, that is Denmark, Norway and Sweden. And then the Middle English period, that is the period when the Normans came, that is people from France. Then modern English period, mix of all these people and more people from other countries as well. Now let's discuss the Anglo-Saxon or the Old English period starting from 450 AD to 1066 AD. So after the Romans left, three Germanic people came to Britain. So they were the Anglo-Saxons and the Jutes. The Anglo-Saxons and the Jutes. So these people were great warriors. According to some historians, the Anglo-Saxons and Jutes, they came to assist the people living in Britain to defeat their enemies. So, according to their invitation, the Anglo-Saxons and Jutes came, as per the version given by some historians. So, in order to help the British people win the war against their enemies, they invited Anglo-Saxons and Jews, according to some historians. So whatever, maybe the reason, they were great warriors. So what happened after that? The Anglo-Saxons who came first, according to the invitation of the people living in Britain, especially the Celtic people. So they came to help the Celtic people. But what happened? The story changed afterwards because the Anglo-Saxons were great warriors. So they started dominating the region. They started dominating the people. So the Anglo-Saxons formed 7 kingdoms. That is called heptarchy. Heptarchy in Greek means rule of 7. So the Anglo-Saxons who came to help the Celtic people started to defeat the Celtic people themselves. So for their purpose, they formed 7 kingdoms. That is called the heptarchy, which in Greek means rule of 7. So they divided themselves into 7 groups, and these 7 groups are Kent, Essex, Sussex, Wessex, East Anglia, Mercia, and Northumbria. So you have to remember this. It is very important. So the heptarchy or 7 kingdoms formed by the Anglo-Saxons were Kent, Essex, Sussex, Wessex, East Anglia, Mercia, and Northumbria. You can pronounce it as Mercia or Mercia. So after they formed the Heptarchy, what happened? They showed the power. They divided themselves into 7 groups and they pushed the Celtic people to the west and northern part of the British Isles, especially northern part of England. So the Anglo-Saxons, they pushed the Celtic people to the west and northern part and they occupied the major area of England. The angels who came from the Angla land, which means land of the angels or angles, we can say. So the angels or angles, they came from Angla land. So the land was called Angla land, which means land of the angels. And they were speaking a language that was English. So the angels were using a language that was English. So from this comes the words England and English. So from the word English used by the angels comes the words England and also English. Then after this, during the 597 AD time period, Christianity, the Christian religion, was reintroduced. That is, the Christian religion was introduced again for a second time. We have seen during the time of the Romans in Britain, that is Roman Britain time, 43 AD to 410 AD itself, Christianity was introduced. But they couldn't, change so many people into their religion, that is Christian religion. After that, again, during the time, that means 597 AD, that is all the English period time, Christianity was again introduced, and at this time they could even convert the king himself into Christianity. So during the Old English time period, again some people from Roman people came, especially St. Augustine. St. Augustine came with his mission to change the people of the Celtic people to Christian religion, and at this time they could even convert the king himself into Christian religion. So that king who showed interest towards the Christian religion was Ethelbert, King Ethelbert. So the Roman people changed, the Celtic peoples and their pagan religion to Christianity. Then in 800 AD, the Danes or Vikings, they came to Britain from the 3 countries of Scandinavia. So Scandinavia was the region that today we can divide into different countries: Denmark, Norway and Sweden. So from these countries, Denmark, Norway and Sweden, the Danes or Vikings came to Britain in 800 AD. And after that we see the Anglo-Saxons' interest towards stories. So the Anglo-Saxon people, they were very fond of stories, and during the leisure time they spent telling and listening to stories. So thus they collected the stories into a bunch, and they titled it as Beowulf. So they collected the stories into a bunch and they titled it as Beowulf. That is a tale of adventures by a hero named Beowulf. Beowulf is a very, very important work. So we will discuss it in detail in the coming classes. So right now, just you remember, in which period the work came out. So Beowulf belongs to the Old English period. Now look at the next point. The first native English poet known by name is Caedmon. Caedmon was the first native English poet, at least whose name we know. Though there were so many, writers, they are all anonymous. We don't know the names. So Caedmon is believed to have lived during 600 AD. And he wrote the work, a poem, a very small poem named Caedmon's Hymn. Caedmon's Hymn. By that name we identify his poem because during that time period, especially writings were not given titles and all, but at least to identify his work, we use the name Caedmon's Hymn. Besides Caedmon, there was another prominent writer during the Old English period. So another prominent writer of Old English period was Cynewulf. So besides Caedmon, it was Cynewulf who was famous during the Old English period as a writer. Then in around 600 to 700 AD, Venerable Bede wrote the work, The Ecclesiastic History of the English People. So during 600 or 700 AD, Venerable Bede wrote the work, The Ecclesiastic History of the English People. And now let's be familiar with some Old English poems. So some famous Old English poems include the following: The Ruin, The Wanderer, The Seafarer, The Wife's Lament, etc. So these were the famous Old English poems. So all these poems were elegies, elegiac poems. We know elegy is a poem that amounts the death of someone or expressing some kind of sadness. So they were all written in the elegiac style. So the famous poems from the Old English or Old English elegies include The Ruin, The Wanderer, The Seafarer, The Wife's Lament. Poetry was the most used form in Old English literature. So Old English, when we analyze Old English literature, everything was written in the style of verse. It was not in the prose way. It was in the verse style, everything. Even some books on medicine were written in poetry form in order to memorize easily. So poetry was the most used form in Old English literature. So not only literature, in the writings in general, they used the style of poetry. Most of the Old English poets are anonymous. As we said, we know only the few names from Old English writers like Caedmon, Cynewulf, etc. There were two types of poems in Old English. So these two types of poems were heroic Germanic and Christian poetry. So heroic Germanic poetry and Christian poetry were the two styles or two types of poems of the Old English period. And some of the most famous Old English poets include the following. We have mentioned the names, some of the names earlier, like Cædmon, Cynewulf, Aldhalm, Venerable Bede, and Alfred the Great. So these were the famous Old English poets. Once more, Cædmon, Cynewulf, Aldhalm, Venerable Bede, and Alfred the Great. The grave, next you look at the point, the grave was the final poem written in Old English. So it is believed that the grave, the poem titled The Grave, was the final poem to appear in the Old English period. Now next is a very, very important point. You have to remember it very well. There were four main manuscripts in Old English period. So there were the Cædmon manuscript, the Beowulf manuscript, the Wesley manuscript, the etc. book. So remember, there were four main manuscripts in Old English: the Cædmon manuscript, the Beowulf manuscript, the Wesley manuscript, and also the etc. book. Then another important poem contained in the Beowulf manuscript is Judith. Judith. Judith was a poem included in the Beowulf manuscript. So that poem talks about a woman. So it's about a woman named Judith. So in this poem, Judith kills a man named Holofernes. So another important poem from the Old English Beowulf manuscript was Judith. So Judith was a woman who kills a man named Holofernes. Holofernes. Then another important poem from the Old English period was The Dream of the Rood. The Dream of the Rood. So the word rood means cross, the cross of Jesus Christ. So it is about the cross that Jesus Christ was crucified. So about the cross. And in this poem, the cross talks to the readers. So the cross is personified in this poem, and it really talks to the readers. So the cross shares its account of Jesus' death. So the cross was, very close to Jesus, because Jesus was crucified on the cross, and so the cross gives an account of how Jesus died. So that's the poem, The Dream of the Rood. Next is another important point. Old English had four dialects. So remember, Old English had four main dialects: Northumbrian, Mercian or Mercian, West Saxon, and Kentish. So the four dialects of Old English period: Northumbrian, Mercian, West Saxon, and Kentish. Now our work, Beowulf. The adventurous story, Beowulf, is written in the West Saxon dialect. So the story of Beowulf. The epic poem, Beowulf, is written in the West Saxon dialect. Old English was rich with synonyms and metaphors. So Old English poetry was really rich with synonymous words and also metaphorical usages. When we check for the other peculiarities of the Old English language, we can see there was not the use of capital letters. In Old English period, there was no use of capital letters. More than that, some letters, even the small letters like J, V, F, etc. were absent. So the letters like J, V, F, etc. were absent. About 85% of all the English words are no longer in use. So in a modern English, we don't use about 85% of the Old English words. In Old English period, so many words were borrowed from the Celtic language. So borrowed words from Celtic language. Old English period came to its end with the Norman conquest of England in 1066. So with the rise of the Normans from the country France, Old English period is said to have ended. Old English period came to its end with the Norman conquest of England in 1066. Then the Middle English period began. That's all about the Old English or the Anglo-Saxon period. With this, we will end our lecture for today, and we will meet again in the next class with our topic, the Middle English period.